And we're back to the Kami EXP podcast. Welcome. I'm Jason, one of your hosts, and this is...
I'm Kami EXP, and this is Kami Quest. I think last time we talked about a lot about systems, so I think we should move more towards like levels and, you know, what kind of ideas we got for levels and what concepts. When it comes to levels, I kind of wanted to have like the Imaginasium is full of rooms, and all these rooms have these different spirits, and their rooms kind of encompass their environment for that spirit. So I remember showing a little bit of the tree level, which has a creature or a spirit called Oblio, which is like this heron, crazy looking thing. And I wanted his environment to kind of look like a nest or a place that he would live in.
The scale of it is quite interesting to me because like Oblio is like a giant heron, like a giant bird.
Yeah, he's pretty big.
But then, you know, Sabbath is quite small in comparison. So, you know, the level design, you got this like giant heron in the middle of the level, but then the level itself needs to be like navigable on a relatively small scale.
Yeah, it's been kind of tough trying to find that balance, honestly, because one, a lot of my animations are kind of like in this surrealistic like environment where everything's empty and it's open, and it's up to you and your imagination to kind of figure things out. But that's not really fun when you're doing a 3D platformer. You know, you want to have things to interact with. So I thought maybe, you know, the heron could be, it's his environment, but there's also tinier creatures that live in that environment, like bees and a bunch of other stuff, to kind of make it more of like an ecosystem.
Right. Yeah. So like these rooms, I like kind of hesitate to call them rooms. I mean, it makes sense when they're like, there's like a door that goes to them in the Imaginasium. But once you're in there, it's less of a room, it's more of a world. And like these worlds are kind of, they seem like less of like rooms that are built to accommodate whatever spirit is there, and more like worlds that were like manifested or like grown to like complement the creature and like the environment that they would exist in.
Yeah, totally. That's always been kind of my goal. I saw the new Ghibli movie that came out a couple years ago, or maybe like a year ago, The Boy and the Heron. There's like this castle that has a bunch of different rooms that go to different times and space or different worlds and stuff like that. And that really inspired me to actually make the Imaginasium. I thought that was so cool.
So did you see that before or after you made the Imaginasium?
It was in the middle of me making the Imaginasium. I read this book like way before this. It's called The Doors of Many Ways. And it's actually the sequel, or maybe the prequel, to Howl's Moving Castle. Howl's Moving Castle is actually based on 3 different books by this writer. It was kind of like that same concept where there's this wizard that lived in this house and it goes to infinite amount of places and it's ever expanding and stuff. And I was like, that is so cool. And eventually, like, I want to make something like that. So I had this idea way before The Boy and the Heron, but when I saw that, just like kind of like brought that idea back up to surface. But I wanted to talk more about kind of like the different characters and different levels that we were going to do. So we have Oblio, which is like the tree level. And then I'm working on the Nambu level. A lot of people really love Nambu.
I love Nambu.
It's one of my favorites
Nambu
as well.
Is so
yeah.
Cool. And then at least the short bit of direction that we've gone with that level so far, I think is like just really stylish and cool.
That's so
and
sick.
I'm really excited to see where we go with that level.
Yeah. It's just like this water fountain. Kind of reminds me of a Kirby's fountain from Super Smash Bros. Melee.
Yeah, exactly. It's like this temple castle, and then we like put it on an asteroid in outer space. So like I really like the spacey kind of aspect of it.
I think like the toughest thing about this is like kind of like tying a story around the level and around the character. I definitely want to have the level kind of explain the lore rather than kind of doing what, Skyrim and Oblivion did, where there's like thousands of books in the game explaining the lore. Maybe like sprinkle in a little bit of lore, but I don't want to be lore dumping everything and all the answers for each character. It's way more mysterious, and it heightens the curiosity when you don't get that information and you're like, I want that information, but you can't have it. I keep it. I'll make a paywall for the lore. Microtransaction
DLC pack for the lore dumping books.
I definitely want to have levels, and I have some ideas of levels where they're just actually just overall vibes, instead of like something where it's like an interactive level where it's more about movement and jumping and all that stuff, but more just kind of like absorbing the moment and just kind of like looking out into the distance and stuff. The Two-Face level, at least the pillar level that we have now, it's really empty, and it's really kind of just gives that surrealistic vibe. And I don't want to fill it in with a bunch of jumping and interacting with the environment as much. I want to kind of just keep it like as it is.
Yeah. And I think there's something weirdly compelling about like that kind of emptiness when it's presented in this sort of like surreal, dreamlike way, because you're kind of like, oh, what is this like vast space, and like what is there on the other side, or like on the fringes of this space, like how far does it go, and like there's not a lot of stuff here, so like what is here, and what's the significance of those things that might be here. And I think like you're talking about the level design being so challenging. Like a big reason for that is that you're not a level designer. Like you're learning as you go. Because of that, it's not like we're making the game and like playing to our strengths. In that sense, like that's like one of our weaknesses that is kind of slowing us down and holding us back a bit. But I think there's so much room in this game to play into like our strengths and your strengths in particular, for like just creating this surreal space that's not necessarily dense and full of stuff to interact with and things to do and enemies to fight and platforms to jump around on, but just something that's intriguing. And I'm really excited to like see how much we can do with that and how we can gamify that.
Yeah, 100%. That's the hardest part, is we got so many ideas, but to implement them is another thing. But yeah, I definitely have a lot of little places I want to show people that don't have to be an entire level, but I think there will be 3 solid levels that are more jam-packed.
Are you ready to take the magic of the imagination home? Well, come on down to the comic shop and get today. Bigger shirts, bags, hats and bags, and even more to come. Visit AAMIEXP.com. That is KamiEXP.com. みんな紙ショップで待ってるね。
But what other type of vibey stuff that we have in the Imaginasium?
Well, probably the vibiest thing that we've come up with so far is having an instrument for Sabbath to play, which is something that's like been on our roadmap for a while. I mean, I think pretty much as long as we've been talking about making this game, like we've wanted music and like some kind of instrument playing to be a part of it. And so we finally made an instrument for Sabbath to play after a bit of deliberation or whatever, where we were really like considering like, okay, what kind of instrument should we play? Should it be like a flute? For me, at least, I was like, I don't want to just copy the ocarina from Ocarina of Time. And then so I suggested, because in a bunch of your videos, he's playing keyboard. I was like, okay, well, we don't want to have him like set up a keyboard stand and a keyboard.
Plugging it in.
Yeah, like that doesn't make... So I was like, okay, what about a keytar? I think keytars are cool, man.
I did not want to go with the keytar.
You were like really pushing back on the keytar, but
it just seems so lame.
I mean, it's dorky, but it's like dorky cool. And after we considered a whole bunch of things, we just kind of like circled back to the keytar, and then you whipped up like this super cool keytar model, and now we've got a keytar. And
I'm pretty happy with it.
I think it's pretty sick.
I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
The one thing I wanted to do that I thought was pretty cool is I want to be able to switch out different sounds. I want to have a lot of my music is kind of like involving sound fonts, and that's just kind of like a really small sample and pitched up and down, and it's just something I really love. It's one of my favorite things to use. Like a guitar and a keyboard. You can switch out sounds and presets pretty easily, but you can't really do that with like a guitar or a flute. We wanted to have like cartridges or something you can collect in the game, or maybe even buy in the game at shops and stuff like that, to switch out the sounds. Maybe like have like a cat meowing sound where it changes pitch, or acoustic guitar, and just different types of sound fonts that you can play.
Yeah, so like mechanically, the guitar, it's pretty similar to the ocarina in Zelda, where you can just kind of pull it out at any time and then just play notes on it. And we have like a wheel of notes of like C major scale, and you can point the thumbstick in whatever direction and press a button to like play the different notes. Just doing that was so much fun for me, to like play friggin' Iron Man on the guitar and like trying to figure out like what songs can I play with this. But then because it's a game in Unity, like the audio engine isn't super snappy, and when it comes to like real time jamming on it, there's only so much we can do to like make that really comfortable.
Yeah. So since all of the notes on the guitar are color coded, kind of like to the rainbow, we're gonna have like a choir of these like statues, and they're all color coded. And I want to have it eventually where you play a certain sequence of notes and they start singing with you, and then once all of them are singing, it like breaks the glass and you can collect the key.
A lot of what I enjoy about your work as an animator and the animations that you make is the way that you combine your music with the animations. And in your short film and in your clips, and like these characters are like just jamming out, just having a good time playing music together.
One of my biggest inspirations for that kind of like jamming out vibe stuff was Adventure Time. There was a lot of moments in that show where they would just, I don't know, play random instruments and just really have fun. And I was watching that show a lot when I was in college for music and stuff. And I've kind of like switched gears into being more serious about music, and I'd watch the show and these characters would just be having a lot of fun and making these really silly, wacky songs. And I was like, honestly, like I really want to kind of like switch gears, and I think it's cooler to just make really weird noises with your friends and enjoy the moment. So ever since then, it's been kind of like my animations and my characters and the music have molded together into one. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about challenges and weaknesses. The horrible part of game dev is game dev.
Yeah, I mean, game dev, there's the fun parts and there's the not so fun parts. There's like the grueling parts. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of work that you don't realize how much work you're setting yourself up for until you really get into it. We've already like whittled down this project quite a bit from our original vision. We're like starting with a smaller project than the game that we actually want to make, for the sake of having something to get out there sooner and to like build hype towards a bigger thing, and to start making some money and raise some funds for a bigger thing, because it's going to take time, and it's going to time is money. But even in this smaller project that we're doing, there's still just like so many things that just get magnified and magnified. The more we work on them, it's like the more we realize we need to work on them.
It just adds up so much. I feel like one of the hardest things about this is really like time management and like organizing what we need to do. And we have a deadline and we want to make that deadline, but it's really hard to predict whether we're going to make that deadline, because there's so many problems that come up that we don't think about, And it's not like we're not working, like we work like almost 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, on this. There's only so much we can do.
Yeah. Well, speaking of us being a two-man team, we are talking with a friend of ours about helping us out with certain things, in particular, like our weaknesses, because like we've said, like you're really new to level design, and that's been a challenge for you. For me, I'm just like, I'm not very experienced, nor do I like care so much about UI, for example.
And not even just working on the game, but also making content for the game is like another thing on top of it. I wouldn't mind bringing other people on. I think we're doing as much as we possibly can with 2 people, and there might just be a time if we find the right people to bring on and work on this game.
But yeah, when it comes to where we're at on our like production timeline now, it feels like we're getting close to having like a playable, testable build. I'm not going to put a specific time on it, but I think soon, TM, we'll be asking for people to help us test out a demo build. So definitely look out for that. Join our Discord, especially, because that's where we'll be like sourcing people to help us out with that. We're definitely like just interested in what people think about what we're doing, and open to ideas of like what we can do with some of the mechanics that we're building, like the instrument, for example. Like there's a lot of potential there, and we've only thought of so much of it.
Yeah, so I think, I'm not sure when we're going to have the alpha, but we definitely are going to have the alpha kind of soon. Don't know.
Soon, TM.
But yeah, like we plan on having a demo at least by the end of this year, I would say.
Oh, and we have a Steam page. Should we talk about the Steam page?
We should talk about the Steam page. Our Steam page is a little janky right now, but it's up. It's up. Kami Quest Enter the Imaginasium.
Yeah, so check out the Steam page and give us a wish list if you want to support us. I feel like personally, I don't want to be like, please wish list our game. It helps us so much. I don't think we need to like drive so much traffic and engagement to that. But if you want to do it, we appreciate it.
And okay, well, that's it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and like, subscribe, hit that bell.
Oh man. Even ironically, that just, I know, it feels gross.
I feel dirty. See you guys.
Dirty, just like our prefabs. Catch us on the next episode of Kami Quest Enter the Imaginasium.